Well, hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and it has been almost a year since the release of the most anticipated game of 2024 on Steam. Yes, the medieval city builder by the name of Manor Lords. Well, Lord Greg has given us a big O peek at an upcoming update and future plans for Manor Lords that I'm very excited about, and you should be too. This game has been amazing, and once it first dropped in 2024, I was captivated by all the things that we could do, but this game has an incredibly long road to go to being finished, and of course, if it could be anything like, for example, building Kuttenberg in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, this may be one of the greatest games of all time, if it could achieve that. But so far, so good. It's been a lot of fun, and now Greg is expanding the team. There's going to be a lot more people on the team, and in his recent Steam news post, which we're going to go over now, there's been an announcement for an expansion of the team working on things like AI, which means we're going to be getting AI city building finally, and also some more beautiful art for 3D art and also 2D art that will be reflected in the map and other menus and things like that. So a UI rework is in the works. So anyway, welcome aboard. Good to see you all here. If you haven't yet subbed to the channel, hi, welcome aboard. Good to see you, and thank you very much for subbing and turning on the notification bell for more city builders such as this one and many more to come in the future. So anyway, Greg posted on Saturday, April 26, 2025, some news talking about, as I mentioned, the team expansion, which will focus on AI, 2D art, 3D art, and then also game design as a whole. And then also they're working on quality of life and QA needs and things that come up super, super hot. And then also, of course, Greg is still there. So the team has expanded. No longer is this a solo project. And I'm really glad that Greg has taken the first step into expanding upon it. I think honestly, keeping it a solo project for a very long time, well before its release, and then a year into it, was probably the right decision. So that way Greg could truly be the master of this game and really dictate and direct where it goes. And now, hopefully, with everybody having a year behind them of tons of different feedback and Greg bug fixing and releasing updates and people saying what they love and what they wish would be different, well, hell, we're all winning. Greg got to release his masterpiece into early access. We all got to play it and give some good feedback, and now he's able to expand the team courtesy of Hooded Horse, which again, that publisher is picking up some real good bangers, and it's certainly a great publisher to pay attention to all these other great games that they're releasing. For example, like Among the Storm. Or Against the Storm, I think it is. Anyway, AI progress in the game is now being reflected, and it looks like finally there are some little sneaks and peeks at what will be against us when we're fighting in the game. The standard game mode for Manor Lords, I think the intended game mode is the whole Restoring the Peace mode, where you get to go onto the map against a rogue AI, essentially, or rogue baron, who you have to fight against in order to claim territories, go to war, and eventually conquer the whole map. Now, there's also a peaceful mode for the game, and then there's also an even harder mode with bandits, and so I'm hoping with more of these AI changes and with the AI being able to build their own cities and build their own roads, that it'll give us something to conquer when we actually conquer territories, instead of just capturing a section of the map and then building something on your own. It hopefully will work like how it is in Anno 1800, where if you capture a enemy's island in that game, you then can choose to either completely wipe the island and build your own stuff, or capture what they've got and destroy sections of it, expand upon it, basically own it. And it does seem like that's what is going to be focused here. Now, there's a few different things then that are going to be changed. Like, for example, they said that they had to reintroduce multiple new concepts like burgage plots, backyard extensions, and living space expansions, which don't exist in the first version when they did that. In other words, they were trying to get the AI to work and then eventually added things that the AI can upgrade. So it's much different to build a city if you're going to be building large burgage plots versus if you're going to be building specific burgage plots instead of all being the same size. Maybe you know that one of them is going to be a farm, so you build it bigger on purpose. So we'll have to see what the AI can do to manage those different tactics, like where it's going to put its marketplace down and that kind of stuff. So for Manor Lords, with a game that is so free like Manor Lords, to build a huge city, that's quite the task. So bringing in an AI guy for that, that's the right decision. That's going to be really hard. But that is the biggest thing that I've seen here that really excites me, is finally a big step into a huge thing, both castles, which we saw in our previous look at the update, and then also AI. And those two things together could be amazing. Imagine seeing the AI build a castle like in Stronghold or something like that, but you're also playing Manor Lords. So a lot of great things going on here. I think it's going to feel a lot more like playing Stronghold in real time, like an RTS where you can, feel and see the castle being built. So that's a very good thing. So can't praise the AI progress enough. I think it's going to be an incredibly long road, and I think no matter how good they do with the AI, it's going to be clunky and it's going to require a lot of feedback, and it's going to have a lot of stuff needed to perfect, because it's going to have to come down to optimization. There's going to be different provinces or regions to take, and then it's going to have to be integrated into the game as to how a player is going to be able to conquer those areas, and then how the AI will react to that if it has something like mules or trade going there. So it's going to be a really long road, and it's going to be interesting to watch that one. There's now a records view that's going to be coming up here, and we'll talk about when this will be released, by the way, too. So just hold on a moment as to when this update will be out, and I'll tell you a little bit more at the end of the video. But as for the records view, finally a big improvement upon taking a look at all the things that are coming in and going out for your resources and possibly for people and productivity. So it may help you to start planning to do more or less of something. If you're creating a ton of iron but not a lot of charcoal, then maybe it'd be a good idea to increase the charcoal output by managing your employees differently and assigning them to different workplaces, or altogether by building more burgage plots and getting more people in, that kind of thing. So a really simple but yet very effective graph that will let you see your progress over time and see how things are going. Trends are very important in games like these. Approval reworks too. They've changed the approval balance so that way it will fluctuate less, and past events will have less impact on latest events. So the whole system of building a church, having it take some time in order to improve the people's moods, will be a little bit faster. In Manor Lords, if you have a small period of time where there's no food or something like that, any sort of negative debuff, really any needs that are not met, will really irritate people for a very long time. It'll keep them upset, and it'll take them a little bit of time to get over that. So if there's a war, if there's a disease or famine, like if there's a bunch of dead bodies around or something like that, that will irritate them for a long time. Well, in the future, it looks like it's going to be more here and now. If people live in a horrible situation for a long time, like a lack of a church and a lack of food, but then suddenly you fix those things, they're not going to dwell on the past, but they're going to be a little bit more, hopeful. And that kind of is a cool thing that will help to move building along, because people won't be as irritated with you, and that will increase your approval rating. That then will have more people move in. So building villages faster, essentially. Now, this was interesting. Something about an upkeep system, too. Many buildings will now require upkeep, which means that a smithy will need to make a constant flow of tools, and deep mines will need a constant flow of planks. So you're paying a material tax now in the upcoming update. Looks like deep mines, like they mentioned, will require planks for all the supports. So if you have deep mines, not regular mines, but if you're deep mining iron, or if you're deep mining like clay or coal, you'll have to provide planks all the time, which is kind of cool, because at a certain point, planks become almost, you stop kind of using them at a certain point, or you've stockpiled so much of it that it's not really necessary to use. Everything else comes down to logs for charcoal. So that is very cool. And then also tools for managing the maintenance of your buildings. So big cities are going to really have a tough time staying afloat if they're not able to import or create enough tools. So there might be the absolute necessity of a town that's massive, even though they may be making their own tools, to import tools and iron and more charcoal to make even more, and possibly send that out to other cities as well. That'd be kind of a cool thing. So they're working on how that will play out, and then of course where you can manage the upkeep efficiency, so you can stockpile a bunch of that or do bare minimum stuff like that. Now, stone is going to be upgraded. Now, when I saw this in a game by the name of Ostreve, when they started to improve upon, and I believe that might be a solo dev working on Ostreve as well, when there were announcements to Ostreve where it was going to have a lime kiln and also differences to the stone mining, I got quite excited, because I didn't really know that those kinds of things were required to do that. And I knew there was mortar, and I didn't know it was really made through limestone, and that they had access to those things in this period of time in these regions and things like that. And so to see how it's done in that game and be like, oh, they did it there too, as it was done, thousands of years in other places, cool to see. And cool to see it coming to this game as well. So there will be a limestone kiln. A lime kiln will then take those stones, and then it'll be used for advanced stone construction, aka your castles. So what I'm thinking here is that perhaps when you mine stone, you'll be able to mine stone and then also limestone. And then that will hopefully be able to be smelted down, that limestone, to be able to make mortar for your construction. So they showed off how a couple of more shallow mines will look for stone. I don't think there's a big stone mine yet, but there could be a deep mine that will be showcased in the future. So far, it looks like there's just open pit quarries for stone, which makes sense. And there might actually have to be a pit mine for some of the lime, but it looks like we're seeing a kiln and we're seeing an open pit for stone, which might also double as a pit for lime. From what I'm seeing here, there's not a lot of information on it, but it just says that they're introducing 2 new buildings, a quarry for endless stone mining on rich deposits, and a lime kiln. Now, I'm not sure if the images that we're seeing is both the same, but I'm hoping that for the stone mine that they'll look different in general. There is, of course, the one that is a big open pit mine, but I think for a stone mine, it should look a little different, right? There should be differences. There is a, the mass pit that you can put all the bodies in for if you get attacked by bandits or something like that. And that also looks the same as like the stone mine or the iron mine or the clay pit. They all look the same. So hopefully in the future, there'll be differences for not only just the deep mines, but also the more shallow mines too, for like iron and coal or whatever else. Whatever it is, I'm just saying everything should have a different appearance to it, so that way you can really tell what it is, either A or B in its size, or the different materials. Now, there's been updates to the Pathfinding 2, which is something that just seems to be a good quality of life thing, and that will help to manage the flow of traffic through your cities. And something I keep seeing time and time again is people oftentimes kind of getting not taking the most efficient routes for things, and also people doing a lot of chatting on the sides of the roads that blocks traffic. So I'm not exactly sure where the major problems are on that one, but it is cool that they're working on that. And then there's some also animations on things like the gatehouse at your castle, which, yes, will eventually be able to be made out of stone. We did cover that in our previous video too, so again, another great reason to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button too, in order to see more of the development of Manor Lords, and eventually the release of this update, which will be probably the biggest update ever for Manor Lords, more than likely, because it'll encompass everything that Greg announced a few months ago before in our last video, and of course, all the things coming now soon, I suppose. But there's a lot more information on the pathfinding and the small things that will make big differences, like, for example, your troops moving from the walls down through the towers. And that does remind me of how things work in Stronghold, for example, where in that game, if you build a wall connected to a tower, there was a ability to basically make a door onto that tower and connect to the walls that way. And hopefully there's more options for that too, where they don't just have to enter through towers. But I can't help but think of all the battles in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, where you're fighting on the castle walls and defending against sieges. And it just looks like that in Manor Lords. So some pretty good stuff that I was expecting to see, hoping to see, and there it is. Another small thing, camera system updates. I think there's been a small upgrade to the system for zooming in and out, and being up against the edge of the map in the mountain map, where if you were bouncing up against the stones there, it would kind of make the camera shake and bounce all around. But Greg has tried to make a harder border there, so the upgrades to that and the improvements to that should be good. So upgrades, updates, all sorts of good stuff around the camera. The camera is not really the worst thing in Manor Lords. I think it's pretty good. So again, a small step forward in a thing that was almost pretty damn perfect. But of course, there's always room for improvement, and I'm sure there's been plenty of feedback in Manor Lords for the camera system. Now, another good thing, progression rework, finally. Yeah, they're still in the design phase, but it looks like they're almost there, and there's a few things that are showcasing some big changes that I can't really get my head around this until we actually get to play it ourselves, but drilling down a little bit and taking a look at it a little bit more, it looks like they're working on origins and local expertise and market rights and town guilds, craftsmen's rights, church advancement, festivities, and town militia. Now, I believe this is all a reflection of possibly a mix of policies and also some of the progression points that are currently present in the game. And I always found it a little silly in Manor Lords that you had to choose between like beehives and apples and like, I don't know, sheep breeding or something like that. Some of those perk points that you'd get from upgrading your town would just be a little dumb. It was kind of fun at the beginning, but it kind of stagnated and didn't really go anywhere so far over the last year. There's been maybe a few more things added, like the ability to fish during the winter but that was just kind of thrown in there as kind of a new thing that you could do. As fishing became a thing in the game later on, there's the ability now to fish in the winter, but only at those ponds. And so this is a really big system. I mean, this is a huge thing. We're going to have to see how it actually plays out. And so this is going to be progression towards like your military and having festivities and then spending resources on making people happier there, or possibly having, you know, like a specialization in production, like things like linen or wool, or maybe even tools and things like that. So going to be cool to keep an eye on that one. That is such a big system that I don't want to comment on it too much, because I need to actually see how that'll play out myself and what it'll look like. It's obviously not going to look like an Excel spreadsheet, and it'll have a lot more art around it. Speaking of art, by the way, the UI work there, yeah, that 2D artist that's working for Greg now is going to be making a lot of cool images to go with the pop-ups for things that you click on, like right there. If you click on the logging camp, and if you click on any of the buildings that are at the bottom of the menu for production or gathering of raw resources or food production, they're all going to have a little bit nicer art. And this really reminds me, again, going back to it again, Kingdom Come Deliverance. That map in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2, incredible. Like when you zoom in on those towns and get to see like the little skeletons in the corner, or people plowing fields with oxen, or mining or smelting. Always amazing to see. Very, very beautiful. So I'm hoping to see more and more of that art improve over time to really add to the immersion rather than looking like a traditional menu. The art kind of makes you, I don't know, it sucks you back in. And I remember back on Foundation when the developers used to have like a kind of blue and gold system. It was very like royal blue with gold, and now they've added a lot more of a art to it as well that looks somewhat like this, and it looks really good. And now, another big thing, river fishing. If a region has a random pond resource node and a river fishing spots will replace the pond. So that's cool. Now, I think really honestly at any time a player is near a river, they should be able to fish. There should always be some sort of fishing available. So I'm thinking that if you have a river, it won't spawn a pond. But in my opinion, look, if you can fish out of a pond and if you can fish out of a river, I think you should be able to do both at any time. It should be based on your resources and not any sort of we'll see. I don't know. But regardless, very cool though to be able to finally see river fishing. I didn't think it would be confirmed anytime soon, but there it is. And of course, fish are very important because you can dry them or, salt them in real life. And I think in this game, it's only salting for now, but I've seen other games like Farthest Frontier, as an example, that they make a smokehouse that you can smoke meat and fish at. And it's, of course, a preservation method. And that would be very cool because, of course, there's also ways to preserve food with sausage in this game and also salted meats and things like that, too. So there should be hopefully more to that very soon. So castles are getting a rework. The tier 1 castles, really, there's not even castles in the game yet. It's more of kind of just a fortified manor, hence the name Manor Lords. But it looks like they've reworked some of the level 1 castle pieces, and we saw some of those pieces from before. There's all these new ones that look really good, and I'm hoping to see, they kind of reflect what the castle will look like at tier 2, and I'm hoping to see that expand a little bit more. So it's more of a heavy fort, the tier 1 castle. I'm hoping to see maybe like small manor first, very small light fortifications. I hope we don't have to build things like this at the start because that seems really resource heavy. But if we could build a couple of small towers, a small gate, and the small manor house in the middle, and then eventually go up to like a castle tier 1 and then like castle tier 2 with stone, we'll have to see how that all plays out. But I would prefer, especially for some of your regions where if you're just trying to defend them lightly, it would be nice to be able to put just a small wall around them and some towers or larger forts that are made out of wood or castles. To me, a fort would be, out of wood for the most part, and a castle would be out of stone, and especially a very intimidating thing. But now, onto the resource map nodes. There's going to be a reflection of the resources based on it looking a little bit like Kingdom Come Deliverance. Again, going back to that one, but just like I had mentioned, Greg is doing an overlay for showing things like berries and somebody mining iron or clay or hunting or what have you. So that'll show you what resources there. Very artsy, looks good, but I think it's not necessary in like just showing the name of the region and then all the resources below it. would be kind of cool. Like when you click on an island in Anno 1800, it'll show you everything that's there. And it'd be cool when selecting your starting region if it would just show you everything. And I'm sure it will. There'll probably be some UI to show that as well. But it's cool to see it on the map. But I'd also hope to see a area where you can just click and see it all condensed in a small corner of the screen, so that way there's no like having to do a little bit of investigation to see everything that's there. But of course, at a glance, it's pretty easy, and that's the gist of what Greg and the team are working on. So that's about it, everybody, for the quote-unquote upcoming update for Manor Lords. There's no news on when this will be released just yet, but last year, or rather the biggest update I can remember, dropped like on Christmas Eve, and then that was out for quite a little while because, of course, there was a vacation or a period off. But in addition to all of this, there is another video on the channel that goes more further into a new map that's going to be coming out called Devil's Hill, and then also a improvement to the castle planner. But I believe that's probably even being produced or improved even more because, well, now there's going to have to be AI figuring out how to get in and out of towers, and so I'm sure that's going to be constantly reworked and modified for like the tier 1, tier 2 stuff for castles and things like that. So stone castles will be a thing, as he mentioned, and yeah, the community is very excited for things like that. So there's like just big amounts of progress going on for Manor Lords, and if I had to guess when this update would be out, I'd imagine that it may be on the actual Manor Lords release date for early access, which was April 26, 2024, but that's literally when I'm recording this. That would have been my date if he had it earlier, but it could be any time between now, which is the release date as of a year ago, and probably, I would say, the end of May. Now, when this releases into a update, it will more than likely be a beta update. You'll have to opt into it. So if you see people playing and you're wondering how the hell people are in, just go to Steam and check out the latest update when it's out. And when you see people playing it, then of course there's always like a little instructional guide on how to do it. And then after that, you can download it. And typically there'll be a few maybe big changes to the update, and then it'll be out, and then it'll be the current version, and it might break some saves and things like that. So just be wary of those things whenever you play Manor Lords. All right, that is all the time we have today for Manor Lords, the biggest update coming yet. Again, every update is the biggest update ever because it's just like a step further towards the biggest game that we've ever seen for medieval city building. So again, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think all about Manor Lords. What are some other great games that you enjoy that have medieval city building, or maybe city building before the invention or during the invention of electricity and fuels and steam power and things like that. And I'd like to know what you think and what you would recommend me play. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching today's video. Have a good one. Bye.